Hey, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of the Molasses Report. Human history is basically the story of invention: the wheel, the printing press, electricity, the car, the internet, medicine, artificial intelligence. Every generation creates something that changes the way people live. Most of the time, we call that progress. But here's my question this week: is every invention progress? Because every invention does solve a problem, but it often creates new ones. I mean, the car gave us freedom and transportation, but it created pollution and traffic. The internet connected the world, but it also created misinformation and endless distraction. Social media allowed people to share their lives, but it also changed how we compare ourselves to others. So maybe progress is not as simple as new equals better. Maybe every invention comes with a trade. Every advancement gives us something and takes something away. So today, I ask, if you could delete one invention from history, what would it be? Not because you hate technology, not because you want to go back in time, but because you believe humanity might actually be better without it. Humans are natural problem solvers. Before inventions, survival was hard. Fire gave us warmth and allowed us to cook food. The wheel allowed us to travel and transport goods. Agriculture allowed civilizations to grow. Medicine allowed people to survive diseases that once killed millions. Inventions are one of the biggest reasons humanity has progressed. They allow us to do things that previous generations could only dream about. A person living 500 years ago could not imagine having access to the entire world's knowledge in their pocket. Someone born 100 years ago could not imagine video calls with people across the globe. Technology has expanded what humans are capable of. But there's an important question. Just because we can create something, does that mean we should? One of the strangest things about inventions is that they rarely have one effect. They're all complicated. The car transformed society, people could travel further, cities expanded, businesses grew, families had more freedom on where they lived. But cars changed communities. People began spending more time commuting. Neighborhoods became designed around roads instead of people. Pollution increased. The same thing happened with the internet. The internet is one of the greatest inventions in all of human history. It gives people access to education, communication, opportunities. But it did create new challenges. I mean, we've got cybersecurity threats, misinformation, addiction, the loss of privacy. The lesson here is not that inventions are bad, but that every lesson is that every invention has consequences. Progress is not just about creating something new, it's about understanding what comes next. I mean, sometimes, though, we can forget how revolutionary certain inventions actually were. I mean, think about electricity, refrigerators, clean water systems, vaccines. These inventions completely changed human life. But because we were born into a world where they already exist, they feel normal. This is an interesting thing about progress. The biggest changes eventually become invisible. We forget that previous generations struggled with problems we now consider basic. But it raises another question. What things today seem normal that future generations might question? What inventions do we accept simply because they're familiar? Because every generation has something it believes necessary until someone questions it. Now, here is where I ask you the question. If you could stop one invention from ever being created, what would it be? Not because the invention has no benefits, but because you believe the cost has been too high. For me, I think I would choose the cell phone. And that probably sounds crazy to a lot of people that know me, but phones have changed the world. They save lives. They allow people to communicate instantly. They provide access to information. They help people navigate, work, learn, connect. But I think about what we lost when the phone became something we carry everywhere. We lost being unreachable. There used to be moments where nobody could contact you, and that was normal. You would go for a walk without notifications. You could sit at a meal without checking a screen. You could experience something without immediately having to document it. The phone was supposed to connect us, but sometimes it feels like it prevents us from being present. We might be physically together, but mentally we're somewhere else. We have access to everyone, but sometimes feel more disconnected. Again, the problem is not the phone itself. The problem is how it completely entered our lives. But if I could go back and stop one invention, I wonder what humanity would look like without the expectation that we're always available. So, what invention would you stop? Would it be the smartphone? Social media? TV? Because the answer we say probably says a lot about what we actually value. But removing an invention does not guarantee something better. Every invention exists because it solved a problem. If we remove cell phones, we lose emergency communication. If we remove the internet, we lose incredible access to information. If we remove social media, we lose connection with people across the world. There's always a trade. The question is not, would life be easier without this? The question is, would life actually be better? Because convenience and happiness are not the same thing. Sometimes the things that make life easier also remove experiences that made life meaningful. Society often assumes that moving forward is automatically good. More tech, more speed, more efficiency, more automation. But progress requires reflection. Can we create this? Well, we should also ask, what happens after we create this? A society that only values innovation can forget wisdom. The goal should not be to create the newest thing. The goal should be to create things that actually improve life. Because not every solution involves the problem. Sometimes it simply changes the problem. The most powerful inventions are not the ones that change what we do. They are the ones that change who we become. The clock changed how humans viewed time. The factory changed how humans viewed work. The television changed how humans consumed entertainment. The smartphone changed how we interacted with the world. These inventions did not just affect our actions, they affected our habits, expectations, and our relationships. They've become part of our identity. And that is why some inventions are difficult to evaluate. Because we're not just asking, what does this do? We have to ask, what does this do to us? And maybe the answer isn't deleting inventions. It is learning how to use them responsibly. Humanity will continue creating. That's what we do. The question is whether our wisdom grows at the same speed as our technology. Because invention without responsibility creates problems. But invention guided by thoughtfulness can improve the world. The future will always bring new technology, new tools, new possibilities. The challenge is making sure those tools serve humanity instead of controlling it. If you could delete one invention, what would it be? Would you remove something that creates distraction? Something that changed relationships? Something that made life faster, but not necessarily better? Every invention tells a story about what humans needed at that time, what humans wanted, and what humans were willing to trade. Progress is not just about creating more, it's about creating better. Because the goal of invention was never to make humans less human, it was supposed to help us become more. More connected, more capable, more creative. So the question is not what invention should we delete, but maybe what inventions should we rethink? Because the future is not built by what we create, it's built by how wisely we choose to use it. This has been the Molasses Report. I'll see you all next week.